starting new wars, dropping bombs. It makes people look presidential. Trump didn't get reelected. He didn't start any new wars, the irony is if he'd gone to war against Iran, he probably would have been,
Well,
he
he
would have
tried
been
to.
re-elected.
I
I
think
know, he
they'd
didn't
hope.
quite get it off the ground. He didn't quite
Yeah.
get it off the ground,
Yeah.
And but Biden desperately wants a war with China or Russia. And the irony is, of course, it's good for the Russia, it's good for Putin and it's good for Xi. It's fantastic for them. If you actually want to destabilize a regime, peaceful relations are much better. But they don't care. They don't really want to cause change in China. It's all used as a political ammunition because people will vote for politicians who drop bombs, basically. Unfortunately, the psychology as such, it makes you look strong. The PR people love it. They love enemies. You instantly get a boost in the poll if you talk about going to war with some far-off country. The arms manufacturers obviously love it. They give you Boeing and McDonnell Douglas. They'll give you lots of big donations. We saw this in Afghanistan, where they had a very, very useful plane. I mean, that's not even, they try to promote it as if we're helping the soldiers and we care about the soldiers and we care about the lives of people in Taiwan or Ukraine or Afghanistan. They don't care about the lives of the people in those countries. They saw when the US were fighting the Russians in Afghanistan in the 1980s, and they just poured weapons in. But as soon as the Russians left, the US pulled out, and Afghanistan was ruined for the next 100 years. And the same thing will happen in Taiwan and Ukraine. They're not really trying to help any people around the world. We saw it they had a very good old airplane in Afghanistan, the A-10, the Warthog.
Right.
And it did the job very well for fighting the Taliban. It was slow. It had a big cannon on it. And if you were stuck in a Taliban ambush, this thing could save your life. Now, they phased them out. And they phased them out for sort of the F-35, and who didn't do the job nearly as well. It cost $8 billion or some ridiculous figure per jet. And the only reason that they could have done that was because the arms lobby forced them into it. And it was bad for soldiers. And that's the way things go. The most expensive equipment, whether it works or not, is this equipment that gets bought. And that is because the lobbyists, the revolving door, as we call it, between people who leave the military and go to work for Boeing and McDonnell Douglas, etc., and it ensures we just buy expensive equipment all the time. And this is one of the reasons why I believe they eventually left Afghanistan, because it wasn't lucrative enough. It was pretty lucrative for the people who built bases, but you couldn't sell enough F-35s. You couldn't sell enough aircraft carriers.
Yeah, and Ukraine's much more profitable.
War against China, that's much more profitable. So we moved out of one. And I think the only reason they moved out of Afghanistan is that they knew China and Ukraine were ready to go. And so they had these emerging markets, and they were back, have reestablished the Cold War, even though the Russians are not communists anymore.